Yeah, I guess we'll get started. Morning and welcome to the last monthly meeting of this calendar year. Uh, Happy that all of you are here and we back to our. The rains have been nice. The rains have been extremely good. We had a very interesting meeting the last month when Tara Gandhi presented about the radio talks, which were given by Dr. Salim Ali between 1940 and 1985, and it was also commemorating his 125th birth anniversary. It was there's a report in the bulletin which you can all read, and on the 16th of November, the first batch of our urban wilderness walk interns, 27 of them, where we had a very small, very nice small meeting at the zoology department of the Stella Maris College, and Sudhakar, Dr. Banu, and Dr. Shantaram were present, and it was very. There's a very good exchange of views, experiences, and at the end of it, they all got all presented with their certificate of internship. There's a group photograph also in the bulletin, and just heard the news this morning, and I think UN has posted it in both the WhatsApp group as well as our Google group, that the scientific paper has been published, and I think he has sent a PDF as well. So 3-4 days back, we heard the news that they were looking at publishing, but it's come out. It's actually come out, and it's a wonderful. It's another wonderful feather in the cap of MNS. It is a very nicely written paper, well appreciated. It covers the entire study, biodiversity, coastal biodiversity study of Zone 1, which is from Paraveer Kadu till Ladayanthitta Kaliveri. And the work on Zone 2 and Zone 3 are progressing. The RFs are on the field. There's a lot of data which has been collected within the first cycle. We're just waiting for the rains to abate, and then the second cycle will begin, hopefully by the end of this month or early next month. And starting early next month, we're also going to have the AWC starting, our Asian waterbird census, which MNS has been doing for decades now. And I will be sending out, I'm talking to the same team leaders who have been leading teams over the last 3-4 years for the AWC and getting their consent on the sites. And I will be sending out a communication regarding this very soon, maybe in the coming week or so. And also, HSBC has requested Sanjay Monga to resume physical, their HSBC India bird races. And Sanjay Monga has been in touch with us, and he wants us to go back to the old format. Last year, if you remember, we did do the bird race, but then we restricted it to only our members, their families and friends, because there was the second wave had begun, and we were very concerned about it. And so this year seems a little more. I do not know how much more adventurous we can be, but then Sanjay Monga feels that it will be good if we are able to open it to the public like we always used to. And so we are contemplating the same, and I think we have 2 dates in mind, the 22nd of January and or the 26th of January. 22nd happens to be a Saturday, and 26th of January happens to be a Wednesday, and we hope that one of these 2 dates, Sanjay will be able to give us an okay. And he also is particular that at the end of the race, like we've always been having, we have a get together so that people can share their experiences. Well, we are looking at that as well. We really don't know how things will pan out, but then we hope we could go back to our our old format. Now, that's it for now. If I remember anything during the course of the meeting, I'll share with you at the end of the meeting. So we have 3 of our members who are going to present their stories regarding the trips they've had. And there's 11-year-old Amog Chatty, who's son of Sriram Chatty, very, very active. Like they're called the balcony birders, and you must, all those who are part of the WhatsApp group will be seeing regular photographs which are being posted. And Amog, incidentally, also happens to handle the camera very well. And then we have Janani, who's joined us from Coimbatore. Janani is also an active member, and she's been with us on all our field trips since the time she joined us. She works and lives and works at Coimbatore. And then we have Venkat, who recently had been to Bharatpur, who will also be sharing this story regarding that visit. So, Amog, if you're ready, we could start with you. Amog?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I request everyone else to keep their videos and their videos switched off and their mics muted so that Amog is not disturbed and the presenters are not disturbed. Thank you, Amog.
Can you all see the screen okay?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so thank you everyone in MNS for giving me the opportunity to talk about my story and for all the great work you've been doing. I'm very happy to be a part of this group. So now I'm going to tell you a short story about my exploration of the Eastern Ghats. So visiting my grandparents after lockdown. So because of this COVID, it has been a very long time since we've met my grandparents. So we decided, why can't all of us go and meet there? So it was a long drive from our place to there. It's around 14 hours. So in between we stopped once, and then in 2 stretches, we are able to complete the 14-hour drive. So becoming a normal birder, if you get an opportunity to bird, you will always take it. So we visited my grandparents in Narsipatnam, which is in the bottom of Eastern Ghats. So over the weekend, we went exploring the range, which is known for the hilly terrain and for the jungles and the tribals of that area. So we set out and we drove for 1 hour. So as you can see in this picture here, Robasingh is the place where we went. So it is completely surrounded with forest, and there's around a 3-kilometer drive, which is a 3-kilometer road, which is paved very well, which is full of, which is surrounded by thick forest on both sides. So we expected that we would not be allowed to go inside by the tribals, but we were surprisingly allowed. So we took the chance, and then we explored this area. So Robasingh is at the base of the Lambasinghi and the Chintapalli hills. And in Lambasinghi, it is a very surprising fact we found was that the temperatures in winter can go down to 0. So the initial difficulties. So initially we were very dull since we were not able to spot any of the birds, or we were not able to spot it because we are very used to wetland birding in Chennai, because Chennai is full of wetlands. So this is very difficult for us to spot. So initial difficulties was that we were not able to spot any of the birds. So in this picture, can anyone spot the bird?
So are you able to see the...
Sriram, just one suggestion. Yeah, can you go into full screen mode, because we see 2 slides next to each other.
Okay, just 1 second. I think
Thanks.
that's the... Yeah. It's better now?
Yeah, much better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we can see the bird.
Yeah, it's a leaf bird.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a Jordan sleep bird.
Yeah.
So we also had our cousins birding for the first time with us. So all of us had to wake up early in the morning and we decided to go with our cousins. So the last night we asked if anyone wanted to come. Surprisingly, most of them wanted to come, so we took them. So it was very difficult for us to spot the birds, and there's a lot of frustration, and none of us were used to jungle birding. So it was very difficult. But our luck changed when we were able to spot a lot of our lifers. So one of the birds we saw was the black-hooded oriole. The black-hooded oriole is not a lifer for us since we've seen it once before in Odisha, but it is a treat for us since the last time we saw it was around 3 years ago, and we were very happy when we were able to spot the black-hooded oriole. We also saw a group of coppersmith barbets, which made a continuous tuk-tuk sound. And we were looking for the bird. Then suddenly one of our cousins told, look at the tree, it's full of birds. So we looked at it and we found out that all of them were coppersmith barbets. I thought that one of them was a brown-headed barbet, but I realized that all of them were coppersmith barbets. Since the one which I thought was a brown-headed barbet was hiding its beak near the trunk, so I couldn't see the red or anything. Then another bird we saw was the crested goshawk. So at first my mother spotted this and my father took the picture. So all of us, we thought it was just a normal shikra, but when we came home, we posted it on MNS, and thanks to GK uncle and everyone else, we were able to find out that it was actually a crested goshawk, which is a big treat for us since we've never seen an accipiter which is not a shikra. So this is the first accipiter we've seen which is not a shikra. We've also seen a common ayora, which we see quite normally in Chennai and near the water bodies of Perambakam. In the small trees, we see these common ayoras. But what makes this picture very interesting is that you can see in few of the leaves, they are holes. So that means there are caterpillars on this tree. So now I'm thinking, do common ayoras eat caterpillars? Then we also saw a brown-headed barbet, which we've seen once before when we are going to the north of India. We are just going for a drive, and then we spotted this brown-headed barbet once before. It's a very interesting bird. So all of us thought it was a coppersmith barbet. So all my cousins, they thought that it was the same bird as before. So they just continued going. So me and my mother were staying in the back while my father and my brother were in the forward. So me and my mother spotted this and we are taking pictures of it. Then next we spotted a Jordan's leafbird female. So it was just hanging in one of the fallen branches. So we spotted a lot of these Jordan leafbirds, but this was the first good pick we ever got of one. Then this is a Jordan's leafbird male. Yeah, one more thing is that we've seen Jordan's leafbird only once before, and that was right outside our house. We couldn't get a picture of it, but we saw it once. So this is the second time we're ever seeing a Jordan's leafbird. So this is a Jordan's leafbird male. Next, we saw a few Jordan's leafbirds flying. They were very fast. They're faster than these bee-eaters, which are normally there, and they're very difficult to capture. Then we had our eyes peeled the entire time. So any bird we saw, we would take a picture of it. So we spotted a group of silverbills, and we decided why not we take a picture. So we also spotted a pale-billed flowerpecker. So we spotted two pale-billed flowerpeckers, but the other picture, it wasn't very clear. So we decided to take this picture. So this is a pale-billed flowerpecker we spotted. So we spotted two of them. Both of them are different. I'm not sure which one is male and female. So yeah. Then everything in the forest around us looked very clear and beautiful. So this is a plant we spotted, which was very nice. So my father decided he can take a picture of it. So we also spotted a lifer for us, which is the golden-fronted leafbird. So this we've seen Jordan's leafbird multiple times before, but this is the first time we've seen a golden-fronted leafbird. So it's a lifer for us. Then we also spotted another coppersmith barbet, but this one is very interesting because we think it's a juvenile. We are not sure if it's a juvenile or not. So it's very small and it has a very big head. And one more thing we found out was that for a juvenile, it won't be growing that red patch right over here in front of the beak. So now so we've seen one juvenile before without that red patch. So this is growing the red patch. So I think it's growing into an adult. I'm not sure. Next, another thing is that in the jungle, food is never too far from the bird. Then the few lifers. So the crested goshawk and brown-headed barbet were two lifers which we spotted. So we were quite excited by the morning as all these were new and it was a very exciting experience altogether. So we couldn't ask for anything more when we spotted two of our lifers. So I am going back again for the December holidays this year and wonder what excitement and surprises await me. Thank you.
Hey, Amog, thank you. Thank you very much. Can you go back to the very first screen which showed where all you went? Because that, since there were two slides together, it was not very, yeah, if you can just explain this. Yeah, that the one before that. Yeah. The one before, the one after. Okay, this is where you went. Because I'm not sure how many of us have actually gone to these places, so. Yeah.
Vijay, so this place, Lambasingi, is very, promoted quite a bit now.
Oh, okay.
It's closer to the Chintapalli forest, right, which is quite dense. And usually they used to have the earlier the Naxalite movements and all of that, right? So the place is fairly guarded, right? But as you see here, right, the road is a ghat road and you will be able to go through the whole thing. Once you reach the other side of the ghat is when you would get to the Chintapalli, but the entire area is forest.
Oh, very nice.
So what we chose to do is instead of getting into the forest, we took the hilly, the foothills part, and we located some roads and we had just driven through some, 6-7 kilometers around, right? And that's where we could see, quite a bit of this.
Oh, very nice. So do people bird here regularly?
No, Vijay, not the spot that we've been to.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I
But
thought.
Chintapalli area, people do go. From Visakhapatnam, they do drive to Chintapalli area. That is quite dense and you will find a lot of, beautiful birds there.
Anyway, great. Thanks, Amog. It was very
Thank you.
interesting. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So, Janvi,
Yes, Vijay.
share your screen and
Hi, members. It's been a pleasure meeting all of you on this narration of my favorite trip to Nellyampati. Actually, it is 100 kilometers from Coimbatore, and I've never been to that place except for one Women's Day trip with my office colleagues. And my cousin came down on March 6th last year, 2020, and he brought my D500 new camera, which was bought out of my reward. I'm working in a GST department where I had caught a case at Tirunelveli where I was working previously, and I was given a reward of 95,000. So I thought, why not buy a D500 camera? And that triggered this trip. And my brother, who also had a D500, he asked me to let us go to Nellyampati. And we didn't know where to go. And one of my friends who are hosting a site called roamingouts.com, they suggested one estate where we can go visit stay at Nellyampati, because the entire place from the foothills to the core area is full of birds. The number of birds also is high, as well as the species. So we just rode off on a Saturday morning and came back on a Sunday evening. And we about the time of breakfast, we were just climbing the ghats, and here is a view of Potundi Dam, which is on the foothills of the Nellyampati, just before we enter Nellyampati. So the fall colors were, it was March, and it was very nice. So I thought I would share this with you. And hill mynas, southern hill mynas greeted us when we were having our idli as breakfast, and immediately the black-hooded orioles, even the golden one, the minivets, orange minivets, as well as small minivets. Then we saw the giant Malabar squirrel, and it was eating some seed. Um, it was doing a lot of pranky things, and it was so nice to watch. So I thought, um, and we saw a lot, much much numbers of these Malabar giant squirrels, and the bonnet macaques greeted us on our way. This is the terrain. It is a fully shola forest, quite pristine. And on the road, this bar-winged flycatcher shrike greeted us, and I had a nice pic. The entire trip was very good for camera, and we even got a picture of the pale-billed flowerpecker. And there was a palash tree on the road, and we happened to wait there, and quite a lot of activity was there. The sun was high, about 12 o'clock or somewhere around that time, and we got this fairy bluebird female, and the chestnut-headed bee-eater, and one lifer, little spider hunter. It was all around that palash tree, and the flame throated bulbul, oriental white eye. I'm rushing through these pics because I've got quite a lot of them. Rufus babbler, that was also a lifer for me, and the barbet, white cheeked, the yellow broad bulbul. Then even some more birds were there, but we could not get Asian brown flycatcher, and some small minivets, then Jordan's leaf bird. Uh, there were so many of them, much activity on the road. We because I was taking all these pics, they one of the passerby suggested to go in front, and there was an elephant herd, like with a kid, with a calf, and it was, I didn't want to go because the activity was so high, and I was so much lured to these birds. Then we slowly proceeded towards the estate, where this OMR greeted us with its display. Then we entered the estate. We had booked for a room here. The estate was an abandoned coffee estate, and not much coffee is growing now. But it had all those tall trees, and the whole border was Paramikulam Tiger Reserve, on the Kerala side of it. So the entire place was almost a forest. I have taken this pic from the balcony of the room. See, this is the balcony, and here is the forest. I'm just showing you what here was a dining, this small hut like thing. The entire area was a Pakka forest, and I was staying inside a forest actually. And this is the terrain. And when I entered the estate, this male of Asian fairy bluebird greeted with its call. Again, the what you can expect from a forest thing, greater racket-tailed drongo, Tailor bird, Rufus tree pie. And when I was focusing on the Rufus tree pie, I came to see the crimson sunbird. I couldn't get a better pic. Then there was so much activity after lunch, 3 o'clock, by the time when we settled down. This hot-spotted woodpecker, he was making his calls, and he was going from tree to tree. I could get so many pics, like thousands of pics I got from this place. Then again, hill myna was again there. Then one pair of great Indian hornbill flew over our head. we couldn't take a very nice pic. This was the one I could give. Then one guy, next day morning, one guy was warming around. This was a jungle owlet. Then we spotted some woodpeckers. Here, yesterday only I came to know that I have spotted a common flameback. I thought it was a greater flameback, and thanks to MNS, now I know I have another lifer. And it's been almost 1 year since I knew that I had seen this common flameback. Then gold-fronted relief birds, even gray wagtail was there. It was all over all over the place on the footpath. Then one guy was munching his breakfast just right in front of me. It was on almost eye level. The Malabar Trogon. I never thought I would take a pic of the Trogon. And the Malabar hornbill was also present. These people were all around. They were the entire one day, 24 hours I was there. It was all around the place. I saw the female of the Trogon also. It was just moving from place to place as I moved to take these pictures. About 400, 500 pictures of the Trogons I have taken. I cannot share everything, but I was immensely pleased with the photography, with the calmness. I need not go around, just near the balcony and just a small walk around the place gave me so many birds. And the Nutach, velvet fronted Nutach. Then we had a ride in the evening towards a place where they said we can see the hornbills, because there was a small quarry, kind of quarried place. So that after the quarry, the road was there. There was a gorge, and then there was a big forest. The forest were had for tall trees, and people said the hornbills would rest. What is that? Perch there, and even you can take flight shots. That during the course of the drive, we saw the crested serpent eagle, and again when we came back, we saw the mountain imperial pigeon in the estate itself. There also we saw the gorge. Near the gorge, we saw the mountain imperial pigeon. Sorry, and we also saw this Nilgiri langur. We couldn't take a better pic because it was inside a uh, grove. I don't know what grove it was, but I could see mangoes also there. We even spotted this striped neck mongoose. Near the gorge, we took again the mountain imperial pigeon. These were all over the place. Then plum-headed parakeets. We also saw the black-headed munias. And the vernal hanging parrot. This was a dream come true for me. The whole trip was like um, full of birds. I cannot ask for more. It was a fantastic trip. Um, like from the photos, you could understand what kind of trip I would have had. And the common flameback was such a surprise to me. And thanks to MNS had showed me that I had this common flameback. I didn't bother to even see these pictures because there were so many of them. And only yesterday I came to know that I had seen this common flameback. I'm not a very good narrator. I thought, I hope I've done my part well. Thank you.
Hey,
Great
thank
job,
you.
Janani.
Thank you, Janni. Thank you very, very much. That was fantastic. And I think you put your new camera to good use. 5,000 pictures. Wow. Wow. That was fantastic. Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. And, you're talking about a place where you saw a gorge and you saw,
Yes.
and this one. I think you were probably looking at the Palghat Gap, because from the Neelambati Hills, when you actually go down, you will actually be able to see. You're walking on the hills itself, you can actually see the Palghat Gap. Anyway, good. So thank you very much, Yanni. Thank you, Venkat.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know, with the kind of talent you have like Amog and Janani, I don't know why you choose me to wind this up, Vijay, honestly, but
No, the reason why I wanted you to present is because I think you probably the first person to be going to the Bharatpur bird sanctuary this season. And since you were there just 3-4 days ago, and I knew you were there, I thought you should talk about the
yeah,
sanctuary. The Bharatpur sanctuary is always, it all depends on year to year, depends on the rains and depends on how much of water is let out after water is used for agriculture
yeah,
and
yeah.
farming in Punjab. All that makes a lot of difference to the amount of water that's available in Bharatpur, and because of that, the presence of birds. So
Yeah.
so that's the reason why I wanted you to
So
share.
it was a kind of combination of circumstances that took me there, a friend's son's wedding, but before that, I think I didn't do the Ayudha Puja properly this year because my car was smoke coming out of my car. So my car is in master health checkup. My camera is under multi-organ failure, so it's an ICU. My phone and my camera, after a long life of visual documentation, died. So I actually went to Bharatpur without a camera,
Oh,
but just with a book and notebook and pencil. So I said, I'm going to document it this time and try to understand a little more. So let me first, you see the screen, right? You can see my screen, right?
yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. So this is not a very, I'm not able to zoom this one, but so this is kind of the sanctuary, and that this is the Jaipur is where the cursor is. This junction, you come down to Fatehpur Sikri and Agra, and this is the entrance gate, and you come right down. So this is the temple somewhere here, the Kevla Deva temple. So interestingly, this time what I thought is, I was last there in 2019. So I thought, let me go back and see how well, of course, the birds is one thing, but I also was a little curious on how the rickshaw pullers and the guides survived. So I went back and met this man, Ratan Singh, who was our guide last time. So he's got a homestay called the Ibis House. And this is where I stayed this time. And Ratan Singh was busy. So this, you can see, is the recognition that he's got from what used to be the Sanctuary ABN AMRO Lifetime Awards. And he's about 67 or 68, and he spent close to 60 years inside the park. He's worked with the great man Salim Ali himself and Bikram Grewal. And this is his son, Mukesh. Interestingly, Mukesh was picked up by Bikram when he was young and taken to Delhi and taught French. So Mukesh is the go-to guy for all the embassies when they want to come to Bharatpur for birding. And for those of you who don't know a little bit of the history of Bharatpur, this is Raja Surajmal, a really colorful king, a Jat king of Bharatpur. And among his exploits is that one morning he woke up and said, let me teach the Mughals a lesson. So he went and actually threw out the defenders of the Taj Mahal and used the Taj Mahal as a stable for a couple of days before he came back. And he's a guy who decided that he will link the Panchna, the Gambhir, and the Banganga rivers, and he is the one who created the Jheel at Bharatpur. So he's kind of the guy who is really responsible for this park and the water in it. And I had a very, very nice evening of dinner with Ratan Singh and Mukesh. And what we understood is that the depth of water, it can accommodate 6 feet. The whole park can accommodate about 6 feet of water. This year it was 3 feet, which is like very good. A lot of water, a lot of birds. But the ideal depth is actually 2 feet. And that's because apparently what Ratan Singh told me is that most of the birds that come there are actually not fish eaters. A lot of the migrants that come are actually vegetarian birds. So they eat plant matter. And with a 2 feet depth of water, sunlight penetrates right down to the bottom and there's a lot of aquatic plants that grow, which is really good uh, for the birds out there. So what I did this year is, apart from having taking the rickshaw, which I kind of parked out this what this place is called Sapan Mori. This point is called the Sapan Mori. Let me show you a better map actually. Yeah. So this is the main gate. You pick up your tickets out here, and this is the Kevla Dev temple, and this is where you have that wall of villains, who shot what and killed what. And this is a walk which takes you to what's called the Python Point. And I discovered this time that actually walking through it, there are some really nice trails that you can walk through where you're not disturbed. So this time I took this particular trail. So this is the Turtle Pond, and this is Jatoli, which is right next to the park. And this was a really great walk. And out here on that morning, I just saw a ton of birds. Most interestingly, I saw the blue throat, which is something which is a kind of a lifer for me. But like I said, no photographs. But it has some amazing vistas. As you can see, very quiet. No one comes to these places, so it's absolutely um, deserted. And this is a point called the Baisa Mori. So Mori is where you have the culverts connecting the different areas of water bodies. And this is where the buffaloes used to be tied before. That's why it's called Baisa Mori. So very, very nice, very, very quiet. No one out there. Plenty of birds. And out here, in this area, we saw the green shank, the red shank, the black-winged stills, the common snipe, plenty of spoonbills. We saw two jackals out here, the grey hornbill, but interesting, the one that I really liked is the common shift shaft, the oriental white-eye, the ashy drongos. We saw the small blue kingfisher out here. We also saw the yellow-crowned pygmy woodpecker. So there are two woodpeckers. The one which is difficult to see is the yellow-crowned pygmy. We saw plenty of mongooses. We saw three pythons. All the three kingfishers were there, plenty of them. The dusky eagle owl, the the collared scops owl, a lot of stuff. And very, very happily, I was able to see most of the eagles except the steppe eagle. We were able to see the lesser spotted eagle, the greater spotted eagle, the crested serpent, ospreys, and a juvenile imperial eagle. It's really buzzing with activity, buzzing with water. The one that I couldn't see was the black bittern. Last time we were out there, it was the rickshawalas who spotted it. It was a masterpiece in spotting. The guy was driving the rickshaw and he saw something move in the water under the thick set, and he said there's a bittern out there. He actually saw the reflection move, and then he spotted it. I couldn't see the bittern this time, and Ratan Singh ji told me that it's because there's too much water. There's not enough of the bittern needs a resting space, a ground, and then the water. But this time the water is right under the thick set. So he said that is not a good thing for bitterns. So I'm really going to wind up out here with just a little recap of the wonderful discussion I had with Ratan Singh. And if anyone goes to Bharatpur, I would seriously suggest that you stay with him in his homestay. Though the evening chats with him are just fantastic, and he was he gave me some serious advice. He said, don't come only for the birds. He said, observe the habitats, take your notes on it, remember the habitats. And he said, really, a successful birder doesn't just go looking for birds. He remembers the habitats. He kind of identifies the habitat of the bird, and then he's able to spot the bird better. Really, some amazing insights, And he then told me, in his typical Hindi way, when you go home, don't clean your leaves. Make sure there are enough Kide. Kide is actually worms. He says, make sure there are enough Kide. That's the way you will attract birds in your house. Plenty of stories. So if anyone of you is in a mood to travel, go to Bharatpur and avoid Delhi. Get off at Jaipur. It's just like a 3-hour drive. Brilliant roads, and really nothing like being there now. Thanks, Vijay. There's really not more for me to do.
Hey, thank you very much, Venkat. That was really nice, and it's a different kind of insight into a trip story. And yeah, now you know why I wanted you to share. Mainly because yeah, and it's very nice to know that Ratan Singh is there and he has a homestay now. When we had gone as a group very long ago, well, Ratan Singh was around, but then he didn't have anything called a homestay or anything like that. Concept of a homestay itself was not there at that time. So
Right. The one other thing, Vijay, is that what I understood from him and his son is there's plenty of birding around the sanctuary also. People who go to Bharatpur end up being inside the sanctuary only. So he told me this time that if you're sending your friends, tell them to keep some extra time to bird outside the sanctuary. There's plenty of it. For instance, he's located a colony of painted snipes out there, and Saris cranes, of course, and the black neck stock, the woolly neck stock. And he says a lot of them also have started nesting outside the sanctuary where there's water. So if anyone is going there, do keep in mind that you can spend about a half a day birding outside the sanctuary.
Venkat, it was fantastic. What you said was absolutely correct. Yesterday, I had spotted the yellow-throated bulbul just because I knew the habitat and I knew where the which fruit it will come and eat. So yesterday, I had a very good pick of that yellow-throated bulbul, which is a very endangered species. What you said was absolutely right. We should know the habitat better so that you can spot the bird. Thank you.
hey, there's a question from Ambika. What's the name of the homestay again?
It's called Ibis Homestay. I'll share it with you guys later.
It's called what? Ibis?
Ibis Homestay.
Okay.
And Ratan Singh actually has 4 sons. 2 of them stay with him in Bharatpur. One of those other sons is the famed Rahul Singh of Sattal and Pangot.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So Rahul is Ratan Singh's son.
Okay.
So,
They are at Sattar and Pangol, is it? Okay.
yeah. He's a storied birder and guide of Sattal and Pangot.
Correct. Anyway, good. Nice. So thank you, Venkat, again. And if there is anybody else in the audience who are present today who wants to share anything, that'll be nice.
Venkat, I have a question for you, Venkat. How is the maintenance of the sanctuary at Bharatpur?
Sorry, how's the?
How is the maintenance of the sanctuary?
Yeah, I think the happiest with Corona and lockdown has been nature. So nature has really taken good care of itself. And thanks for asking me this. So one of the other interesting walks that I had was, I think the most prevalent tree in most parts of Bharatpur is the kadambam or the kadam. And so in parts that I walked, it was heavily wooded with the kadam tree. And if you all go there, a definite walk is a must to see the old hunting building, which is called the Kadam Kunj. Let me see if I can just quickly show you guys a photo of Kadam Kunj. And that's a very interesting place also, where the Bharatpur kings used to go. And yeah, it's unlike the Rajbagh in Ranthambore, which still has some romance about it. This place is like completely broken down and is in utter disrepair. And but this is a very interesting walk. And again, if you're lucky, you can do a lot of birding out here. So this is the Surajmal's palace where he used to come and stay when he came to Bharatpur, the Kadam Kunj.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Venkat. This is Tara here. I want to ask: is it better to take a cycle when you're there, a bicycle, or is it better to go by the cycle rickshaw?
No, the cycles are there. So what Mukesh told me is, he said you take the cycle rickshaw so that you can put all your stuff out there, go park it at the Kevladev temple, but also go with your cycles and then explore the rest of the park in the cycles because the road up to the Kevladev temple is now a concrete road, so it's really nice. The rest of the place is really hard on the poor rickshaw guys to take you around. So he said that's probably better to do with the cycles.
I still remember those cycles are fairly rickety ones. Are they
Yeah,
still like that?
But that's part of the
Yeah, I know.
whole romance. I think if you go with your speed cycles,
Not the speed cycle. I mean, even the seats used to be terrible. I mean,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
sit on it for more than 2-3 hours at a stretch.
nothing's changed about it.
Yeah, okay,
But
good.
the one thing that I thought, Vijay, that we could probably do is that, all these rickshaw guys are really, obviously, they make their money only on the weekends. On the weekdays, they kind of fall sitting out there. So, and all of us use a lot of sneakers and shoes, and we keep throwing these away after a couple of months in fairly good conditions. If we could collect all that and send it to them, I'm sure they'll have a lot of use for our shoes and use it again. So that's something we can think of doing for them.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Maybe one can, yeah. It's a good idea. You can propose it. Why don't you send a message out to both the Google group and our WhatsApp group, and let's find a common place to get, and we can bundle everything together and probably send it to, Ratan Singh himself. He'll be able to do what is the, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's actually a very, very thoughtful suggestion. Thanks. Yeah, they must really need. They really must be needing. Yeah. Anyway, good.
Yeah, and I have the numbers of the rickshaw wallahs also. So if anyone needs, I'll be quite happy to share it with them.
All right. So thanks. Is there anybody else who would like to share?
I would just like to add something to not about Bharatpur, but the Kadam that Venkat was talking about refers to Mitragaina parifolia. And the Kadam in Madurai also, the Kadamavaram of Madurai also is Mitragaina parifolia. Many of us, including me, sometimes we plant what is called as Neola Markia Kadamba as Kadamba. That is actually not the original Kadamba present probably in Tamil Nadu. I believe Neola Markia Kadamba is mainly present in Goa and Maharashtra. It is the native of India, but not perhaps native.
Badri sir, you suddenly went mute.
Yeah, you've gone mute. Badri.
Just for
Badri.
Yeah.
So you were saying that what is it, Goa and Maharashtra?
Neola Markia Kadamba is mainly present in Goa and Maharashtra, whereas the Mitragaina parifolia is mainly present in the slightly drier areas like Tamil Nadu and say Bharatpur also, Mathura also. Kadamba is the sacred tree there.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah.
So Mitragaina is the main one.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Badri. Okay.
Vijay, I'd like to say a few words. Yeah,
of course.
It was amazing. All the three, Amog, Janani, and Venkatesh. It was such a fascinating morning. Sundays. Actually, a trip to all these three different places. One is Eastern Ghats, one is part of the Western Ghats, and other is the North India wetlands. And it's amazing. I think we could have more of these trip programs in our monthly meetings. Maybe we can make every 2 or 3 ordinary meetings, we can have this trip. Otherwise, a lot of our people are traveling to lots of places. We don't get to know them. Of course, there is a WhatsApp where people exchange the information, but this is much more interesting. And I think we are learning much more from these presentations than from merely the exchange of notes in WhatsApp. Thanks. So congratulations, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Sudhakar. Yeah. There was something that I recall now when you and I had been on that recce for Zone 2 and Zone 3 for the coastal biodiversity study, and when we were at Dhanushkodi, standing at the at the very tip, there was a small sound that I heard on Yuvan's phone. So he had got a message, and this message was from Digital Sri Lanka, saying, "Welcome to Sri Lanka." So I was asking, hey, what is this? So apparently Jio has a tie-up with Digital in Sri Lanka. So we were just there. I mean, just a few kilometers away from Sri Lanka. That was something which was very interesting, which came. Normally when we cross states, you have all these service providers sending you welcome notes. So anyway, good. Okay, so thank you all very much for being here. We'll communicate to you regarding the plans for the AWC as well as the Chennai bird race. Come back to you as quickly as possible. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of Sunday.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Very enjoyable. Thanks. Bye.